Hello and welcome back for a brand new episode of In Conversation with. Today we are talking to Alexander Friedman, who is the founder of Brooklyn Math Tutors. Welcome, Alexander.
Oh, nice to have me. Well, nice to have you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to
Usually
have
I
you,
run
of course.
these.
But yeah, I'm really excited to hear all about your journey. So let's just start by talking a little bit about your journey. How did you get into tutoring?
I am probably the only tutoring agency owner who is a high school dropout. I was a really bad student in school for various reasons, and then sometime a few years after I dropped out of high school, I went to college, and completely randomly, somebody I knew asked me to tutor her son. Like we did martial arts together, and she said, "Oh, this kid is very smart, but he doesn't like any of his tutors. You're good at math." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good at math." All right, and that's how it started. I tutored one kid, and then I realized that it was so much more satisfying to actually help people directly than whatever my day job was. I was a software engineer, I think. And then little by little, and this was trying to remember when, around 2007. There wasn't like any real business content. There was no like 4 hour work week. There was no Alex Hermosi. There was nothing. So it took me a long time to realize that this can be turned into a business and that it should be turned into a business. And I was actually quite reluctant to do so. I didn't see myself as a business owner. But eventually, over the course of many years, which it doesn't have to take other people, it went from me tutoring a few students to me tutoring a lot of students to reluctantly hiring other tutors, and then even more reluctantly hiring a manager to do the agency management for me. And now it's an actual business.
It sounds like it's something that happened very unexpectedly. It wasn't something that was planned, or you didn't think that, oh, this is where it's gonna go.
Yeah, it was completely unexpected. I never saw myself one as an educator. I mean, again, I did like drop out of high school. I hated school. But it turned out that that experience was kind of a plus. Like for one, parents never asked me like, "Oh, let me see your high school degree." Like they don't care. But it did help me connect with students who also struggled in school.
Yeah.
Because that would work with them, and I'd say, you know what, I also didn't like this. It's okay not to like it. Let's get through this. You don't want to end up like I did and not have a degree for no reason. So I think I've talked to a lot of agency owners actually, and the majority that I know also are kind of like this. Very few people are like, all right, I'm gonna get into this and make a lot of money. Like, I don't know anyone like that. I know they exist, but most people just kind of organically becomes a business because they turn something they enjoy doing that's helpful into a business.
Yeah, and you're so right. Every single company I've spoken to, people I've interviewed, they all always say the same thing, that this was something that I was truly passionate about. And that's how I kind of got into this. So that's incredible to hear. Was it scary at first? Was it a daunting journey?
It was so scary. It was scary on so many levels. I mean, I had to really change my mindset as a human being to get into this idea of, well, first of all, just self-employment of any kind. Like that's scary.
Yeah.
If you've only had a job, being self-employed is terrifying. It's one thing to do the work of being a tutor. It's another thing to like find the clients and then manage the clients, and then they're not happy with you or they are happy with you. And then you need to ask them for money. And that's the scariest thing when you haven't done it. It's like, can you please pay me? Just please pay my bill. Um, so there were like countless I guess personal transformations. I don't want to overuse the word, but like that I had to go through to really go from a guy who had a job to somebody who like sees himself as a business owner and runs a company. There was so many things that were scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what were some of the challenges you faced when you first started Brooklyn Math Tutors?
Well, when I first started, it was like 2008. And I had no idea how to advertise. That was one. Like
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest challenge. Um, I didn't know how to like organize everything. When you start, you're like, okay, I have a client, great. How do I bill them? Like, do I just like bill them after the session? What if they don't pay me? Do I go to their house and say, hey, could you owe me for like, there's all these, like, it sounds trivial, but there's all these things that are hard to figure out when you don't know what you're doing. Like, you don't know how to set things up. And then after you get a few clients, well, go, how do you keep track of them? Like, how many sessions do I owe this person? How many hours? And then like once you start hiring other people, just that whole thing just explodes in difficulty, which is why I've used like almost every tutoring portal software you could find. I even had to like write software to add to the ones I was using previously because they didn't do what I wanted to do. And it becomes like an administrative nightmare. That's the last thing I remember because in the beginning it was many years ago now.
Yeah, yeah, it's like it's just one thing after another, isn't it? No, I completely agree with you. And like you said, there are, from what I've seen, there are four important parts of a tutoring business. There's obviously the owner, the person who runs the tutoring business, and then we've got the tutors, and then the students and the clients who are then paying for those students. So there are all these different pillars that make up a tutoring company and how successful it is. So we'll start with tutors first, because I want to hear from you how you built your tutor team. What was that process like?
When I started, I was really clueless and I didn't know what to look for. And so I would interview people and I would give people the benefit of doubt. I'd be like, okay, is this person good at math? And then like as I got better and better at running the company, as my own social skills improved, I started really filtering for people that had very high, what do you call it? Like EQ, basically high social skills. So even if they were good at math or physics, I would start filtering them incredibly heavily. Like, will our parents like these people? Like if something goes wrong, how are they going to react?
Mm.
Um, in terms of like practicalities, when most companies post ads for tutors, they write this like very short ads, like, "Oh, hey, we're cool, we're paying this much. Do you guys want to work for us?" And I have an ad that's like a small novella, and it's just like, no, 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 it just says no to everything. And the people who apply are really a good fit. Like the people who manage to read the whole thing, who have attention to detail, who are like, "Oh, I want to work for this company." I like it when people are extremely clear about what they're
Yeah.
asking for, what environment, what the expectations are. So it was a very long process of learning how to select people because ultimately, if you're just a one man show, then people are picking you based on your you think it's your skills, but it's actually like like maybe 20% your tutoring skills and like 80% your presentation. When you start picking people, now all these people are representatives. They're literal agents of your company, but and they're representatives. So you have to be extremely careful because they don't have the same goals as you do, and it's very easy for them to mess up your reputation. And I've had that happen in all sorts of unpredictable ways, like things you couldn't imagine. It's like, oh my God, this person did what? Like, okay, huh. So, so it took a long time to figure out how to filter that.
And coming to the clients now, how did you go about finding clients for your business initially?
I think we got extremely lucky. Realistically, it's very hard to find clients. Clients have to kind of find you. When I started the company, I started researching search engine optimization because I didn't really know also how to have clients find us. And I was like, well, I'm in Brooklyn. I tutor math, and we're math tutors. Right? It was actually Brooklyn Math Tutor. There was no S originally. And then we
Yeah.
added the S a few years later. Our company has a search engine friendly name, and then we have lots and lots of reviews on Google Local, Google Business Pages, whatever they call
Yeah,
themselves now.
I noticed. Yeah.
We do get clients through referrals, but one odd thing we found is that in our city, people don't refer as much. Like I once wound up tutoring two students that were best friends in different schools, and they told each other about me, like, "Oh, I have a great tutor, oh, me too," and it turned out to be the same person.
That's so interesting. So is it the stigma or is it just like, well, I don't want to share my tutor with anyone else?
Might be that because I at some point I partnered with a similar company in I think it was California, and people referred. They were like, "Oh, here's a great tutor. Here's a great tutor." So I'm not sure what the New York parents are thinking. It may be that they don't want to share their tutor because tutors are very busy. Like it's kind of hard to be a good quality tutor in New York.
Hmm.
You tend to get booked out very quickly because there's just not a lot of people who want to do it and can afford to do it. So it's like
Yeah.
really high skilled people that are usually like in between some kind of like they're in grad school, or they're like actors or something. Like I'm tutoring the site, so they don't tend to have a lot of availability. So maybe it's that like I don't want this tutor to not have availability.
That's so interesting, something to look into. And I think that brings me to my next question as well, because I was really intrigued to kind of understand. I'm in the UK, so I know what the tutoring landscape is like in the UK. But what's the American tutoring landscape like? How competitive is it?
I don't know. I just know the New York landscape, and it's incredibly competitive. Like private tutoring is not a big thing in America as a whole, but it is a very big thing in like the big cities, like in LA and New York, um, and not so much in the rest of the country. So you'll have tutors, like tutors in New York will charging and get paid like literally three, four times more than they will most of the places. It's
Wow.
partly like the cost of living difference, partly that there's a lot more parents there that are like, I have to have my kids, you know, there's a lot of pressure on the kids, and so, tutors are a tool that they use. Um,
Hmm.
there are many tutoring agencies. There are many tutoring agencies far more expensive than ours, and they make lots of good money. So
Mm.
there seems to be enough client demand. We get lots of clients. I think it's probably hard for people at first to understand what it is that parents want from tutoring companies. I'm surprised there aren't more tutoring companies because it doesn't seem like that difficult of a business to run.
Again, there was a surge during the pandemic. So that was a big surge in terms of people starting their own tutoring business because they're like, well, it's all online, so it should be super easy. So we also saw a surge in people kind of using TutorCruncher. But even now, that has kind of been the trend, and a lot of people are starting their own tutoring business, which I think is really cool.
I think so too. I think it's better that lots of people have their own individual companies than like the giant tech companies in
Yeah.
education make money, like the Wise Ants. I hate those companies. So I'd rather there's a lot of private tutors. Like if they can manage to find their own clients, then God bless them. I'm happy that they're doing it.
And in terms of your students, coming to the third pillar of a successful tutoring business, obviously the students are a very important aspect of it. So how do you ensure that each of your student kind of is at the center of your approach?
I mean, it's like we like to keep things very easy, simple. We just like find good tutors that I know will do a good job and then like release them. I think like a lot of companies like to talk and say a lot of words about methodologies and their mission statements and um but I think it's mostly fluff. Like ultimately it's just like, do you have a good person working with the student? If you have a good person, things will go well. If you don't have a good person, like no amount of training materials or logistics or like anything, nothing's going to make it better. And I think that's also the case in the classroom. So like the other good companies that I know would just focus on having like very good quality tutors who are
Yeah.
just very good quality people, and then like it magically works itself out. There's a really good book I read when I was trying to scale my business. It was called Good to Great, and it made a very good point. And then it was that if you have good people, management problems disappear.
Hmm.
And that's what I came to see also, because I used to have a lot of management problems like, oh, this person isn't doing this. Why aren't they doing this? How do I like motivate them and how do I organize them? And it would drive me nuts. And then I realized I just have the wrong people. Some of them, because some people are completely problem free. And then some people just constantly cause problems. I spent a lot of time trying to like, I wouldn't say manipulate, but like softly, leadership them into doing the right thing. And you just can't if they don't want to. So just whoever's watching this, like if you're having problems, it's not you, it's the people you're choosing. It's not like your systems, it's nothing. It's like choose the right people and you'll have zero problems, almost zero problems.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That is very good advice. Now, you've been with us for over 5 years, I think, which is a long time. So I want to hear from you. How did you find out about TutorCruncher?
Like my original background is in software development. And when I started actually scaling the company, it just means, I don't mean it was like scaling, but it was just growing. I realized, okay, you can't just do this on Excel spreadsheets, right? It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Although I know, believe it or not, I know companies that make much more money than me that are still doing things on a spreadsheets. And I've been trying to like, please pay for TutorCruncher. And they're like, rah, rah, rah. I basically tried, like I said, almost every tutoring portal management company, whatever you want to call it. I started, I think it was like TeachWorks, and then there was another company that's very similar that's also run by the same company. And then, but that didn't like have all the features I wanted, and so I actually ended up like writing software to create a bunch of features, which is actually the features that TutorCruncher already has. And I was like, somebody has to do
Wow.
this. somebody's like, I can't be the only one that has this idea. And of course not. It's not like I'm doing anything special. Like the whole idea of organizing things by job,
Mm-hmm.
most portals don't have that. And the whole idea of like getting tutors to apply, most portals also don't have that. And so what ended up happening was, the portal software just like allows you to do the billing, but it doesn't help you with the matching process. And so if you're having a lot of people coming in and you have more than just two or three tutors, if you have like five tutors, you're like, oh, you need help with math. This is the guy. That's the girl. When you have
Mm.
20 or 30, like God, like good luck. You don't know what's going on. So I remember having to like write like five identical emails to five tutors and keep tracking them. It was just a freaking nightmare. Um, so I first solved that by writing my own software. It wasn't hard, but it was annoying. And I was
Mm.
like, there's got to be a better solution. Then I forget how I came upon TutorCruncher, but I was always looking and I was like, oh my God, these guys are doing it pretty much exactly the way I want it to be done. That's how I found TutorCruncher. It was just like my mission in running my company was always not to make as much money as possible, but to make my life as unmiserable as possible. And like TutorCruncher basically like made it so there's like less administrative work, a lot less administrative work. In fact, almost no administrative work.
That's amazing to hear. And well, this is why I love talking to our clients because the journey is just so inspiring. And obviously, you've been with us for a really long time and you have grown exponentially. Would you say TutorCruncher has played a tiny part in helping you with that?
So it's an interesting question because it's not, the TutorCruncher hasn't directly helped the specific like financial growth of the company, but it helped my life immeasurably because
Mm.
uh, the growth has been in the amount of free time me and my manager have to not do like repetitive, tedious administrative work. Like no tutoring portal software, as far as I know, will help you find clients, but they will make the rest of your life less miserable. So if you want to spend that time on, doing marketing, on doing whatever it is that gets you more clients, then it will help you. And I think a lot of people like don't realize just how much time they're wasting on tasks that are better done by a computer. Like the people who run tutoring companies, as you mentioned, they're very rarely business people, and so they're like, oh, okay, this works well enough, but like they may be spending 15 hours a week on something that we spend 2 hours a week on. So I spend that difference, spending time with my family or whatever. But if they want to spend that time growing their company, that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's so true because we speak to so many clients, so many prospects who tell us that, oh yeah, we're still using spreadsheets and that basically takes up our entire day. And then when they join us, they're just like, oh my God, we've got all this free time now and there's so much we can do. So it's actually incredible. It just makes life so much easier. So I'm really happy to hear that. Now, on to my next question, because I really love this question. So I want to ask you, what is your favorite thing about running your tutoring business?
To be honest, I don't like running a tutoring company. I like tutoring. I really love tutoring. I don't love running a tutoring company. I suspect that a lot of people don't love running the company. That's just what ends up happening. So I think if I have to have a favorite thing, is it's that it's like you're still doing something meaningful. Um, what's a favorite thing for me? That's really what you asked me. Favorite thing for me is that it's an easy business to run. We're helping people and we're making money doing something that's not bad for the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry it's not like more in depth or like I get to help people every day and see the like I wish I get to help people every day. Actually, that's how it was when I was tutoring. I love tutoring.
Mhm.
But running a tutoring company is like running any other company, I think. Oh yeah, I love that we never have to sell anything. Like I hate businesses where it's like, look, you want this thing. I know you want this thing. Like I
Mm.
don't really want this thing. Like come on, buy this thing. We don't have to do that. We don't have to market. We don't have to do anything like that. It's like people come to us and say, please help us. We say, okay. And there's nothing like sleazy or salesy involved.
Yeah, yeah, no, love that. Real talk. This is a very real conversation. So I love that. Um, Also, well, when it comes to someone else, if there's someone out there who wants to start their own tutoring business, what advice would you give to someone who is kind of starting that journey, just starting out?
Just do it. Just like don't try to get everything lined up. Just like start. If you're already tutoring and you're like at your client capacity limit, just start. Like you'll be glad you started years earlier. Like I wish I'd started earlier than I did. Like everything else, like, oh, I wish I'd done this X years ago. So if you're thinking about it, just go for it. You know, there's lots of information out there, lots of information on how to run a business. Um, it's not a difficult business to run. You're not going to go broke paying TutorCruncher $50 a month or whatever. It's not like you have to buy like huge inventory. There's nothing that can really go wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
not a lot. So like if you happen to be in this industry and people like you have a huge natural advantage. So just go for it. It's not such a big deal.
Well, that was Alexander. Thank you so much, Alexander, for being part of this today. And thank you for having such an honest and real conversation with us. I absolutely loved it. And for anyone watching, if you are a tutoring business and you want to get featured in the next video, please reach out to us. All the details are in the description below. And I will see you next time.